appreciate you doing this, Ellis.
Us talking, we'll probably mostly talk about movies, I imagine.
Yeah. Whatever you want, and I'll promote your stuff too.
Okay, yeah, sure. Oh, yeah. Let me go get my comic book. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
Let me go get one other.
Okay. Whenever you're ready, I can fade in to this. Hey, look at us. Look how big we are. Let me squeeze this down a little bit. There we are.
You're playing with OBS. I've got no idea what you're up to. All I see is the zoom in. I'm a little bitty icon in the top of the screen, and you're the big thing I'm reacting to.
We're side by side, basically because I don't know any other way to do it. But
this is cool.
You saved us all, man. You saved this stream.
Yeah. Well,
Ellis, you're awesome, but we only have 14 hours to save the Earth.
14 hours. What movie is that from?
That is Flash Gordon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Not to be confused with Flesh Gordon.
Oh, yeah.
Totally different kind of movie. So this is my very first episode of the Punk Hiro Project. I'm going to have Linnea Quigley on here, Reggie Bannister, a few other people. But my first guest is my bud from far away.
Oklahoma City.
My Twitter pal, my artistic Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ellis Goodson, who, what you started off in video games, right? Like Vector Man and Jurassic Park.
Right. Well, back in the San Diego days, the first step was having an art director. You know, I was in the Oklahoma City market trying to do things with myself, and so storyboards, sounded like the kind of gig a guy thought he wanted to be a comic book artist. I didn't realize, how hopelessly far away from being able to break into that very, even harder to get into thing back then, how far away I was. But I could create figures out in my head, and I really thankful. A young person has to be happy with themselves on some count to get ahead.
Yeah.
And I was really impressed with that talent that I learned from self-studying George Bridgman of being able to create the figure. And that enabled me to do things like storyboards, I thought. And I went to a local guy in Oklahoma City that was our only big ad agency. He looked at me, looked at my boards, and he says, okay, I just have one question. What are you doing here? Because it wasn't like he was just telling me Oklahoma City is not where you're going to want to be with anything like what I wanted to be as for a career.
Yeah.
And so at what was not even a particularly young age, I was probably just about to turn 30, I headed to Dallas. And from Dallas, I did get a storyboard works with two little productions. Dallas is just big enough that they every now and then have a movie they make. And I got in with two productions, and one movie actually came out with Eddie Albert Jr.'s son in it and Joe Don Baker.
Really?
Yeah, it came out. And my storyboard credit rolls right up there. It's called...
How could I not know this?
Well, it's on my internet movie database. What is it called, damn it? I was pretty proud of that, but I did.
It's called
something or other. Getting Even.
Getting Even. Storyboard
Getting
artist.
Even. Joe Don Baker, yep.
1986 is when it came out.
And they even, I think, give me a credit for the other one that didn't come out in any appreciable way whatsoever. It may have made a VHS splash of some sort. I forget what it was called.
Final Cut.
Final Cut. Yeah, which is funny because just about that time that it came out with that title, or it was going to come out with that title, of course. So the guy that had such a blow up with budgets on his film about the wars between the landowners out in Montana. Oh, you remember that? The guy that did Thunderbolt and Lightning, the director that just kind of sang.
Yeah.
What was that movie called? But anyway, it was for its time, it was the biggest blown up budget and failure of all time.
Well, you've done some stuff when you're involved in two films and you really don't even know the names of them. So, I mean, that's how much stuff you've done in your lifetime. I mean, movies, video games.
I did that at a fairly young age, and I came out to San Diego thinking all I'd have to do was drop something in a plain brown envelope and send it to Steven Spielberg, and I'd be on my way. And then, of course, you get out there and you get real hungry in San Diego real quick looking for a job. And I found a almost minimum wage job working in what was an industry I'm sure that's practically gone away of, practically like chalk shows, chalk talks of these pilots that would get up and they'd need visual aids to do stuff. And I got a job out in North Island helping them produce that. Then the next job was working for Miramar, which the Top Gun pilots.
Wow.
The same thing. That was chalk talks. And then there was a weird chemistry at the Miramar thing where even though we were artists, and I guess I am always so slow to realize that chemistry is very sour between people because I just assume everybody kind of is at least neutral on liking me. And the more and more I've thought back over my life, I've realized, man, that guy didn't like me a bit. and you just start ruminating about stuff and you go, man, what was I thinking? That guy hated me. And but this guy gave me an opportunity. I think he really wanted me out of the studio there at Miramar. And he gave me this big link to an El Cajon company doing video games called Leland Corporation. And they had done the first Dragon's Lair, the Laserdisc cabinets that came out.
And yeah.
They had one of their big successes.
Space Ace also, right?
Space Ace, they did Space Ace. And so I got out there and we were still, I think the chip was called the Z64 or something. So without a vision for much of anything other than that, making these cabinets was good money. It felt like iffy to say that, consoles are probably going to replace this. The idea of where you get your video game entertainment. Now it seems so clear that arcades are going to go away and everybody's going to bring their arcade into their house. But back then it was like, well, who can know the future? So we did some video games, and then I had the linkage from there, another linkage of moving on from there to, I was actually recruited by a guy named Dana Christensen for Blue Sky, and that's where I met Doug Tenagle.
Right.
And Doug, we did some games there, Vector Man and all that. That's when I started to make games that actually come out at Leland. That's where I learned the fact that you can spend a year and have somebody pay you a fairly good salary on something, and it just gets thrown into the trash. They say, well, nah, it's not happening. Let's quit on that one. And that's the game industry, or it was at the time, where you could just say, whatever, we tried. And you realize that you've been just need to stop and start over again.
Now, is that frustrating for you as a creator?
Not really. It was just so baffling that someone could allow that to happen. But at the same time, it was kind of cool. It was kind of like free money. It was like, wow, I've worked at so many crummy jobs. here I've had a lot of fun messing around with a computer and doing stuff for a whole year, and you're not going to use any of it. Okay, doesn't bother me because when you think about it, any assets you do for a game, it's not anything to say, well, like, let's use this over here. All that work you've done. No, it was applicable to that one thing. You know.
Now, did you have to adjust to a new engine every time you worked on a new game, or did you
Oh
guys?
yeah, that I mean that's the thing. Those engines are coming along, and that's the that's the actual skill. That's when they tell you that thing of learn to code. That's what they're talking about. Become one of the guys that is necessary to to figure things out, so everybody can use that platform because that engine is going to be how everybody else plugs into everything you're supposedly up to. You
Sure.
gotta do all your check-ins and all that. Someone's got to build all that usually, and of course that's why I guess that Unity is such a big deal. It's like say, here's your interface on this or that. I'm not completely sure how much you get by knowing Unity, but I'm sure it's a lot in terms of like because I see these guys that are always posting their builds on Twitter, of games they've got going. I guess for mostly phone apps and stuff.
Now, did you know early on that this is something you wanted to do, like at least in the art field?
No, you get out of school and you do have a kind of tunnel vision about the idea of your talent. My talent, I just felt like was going to be comics. I was a big fan of comics, and I was one of the guys that early on was discovering like the underground, what we call them underground comics, but that early Richard Corbin stuff that was coming out, and I tended to like comics that weren't the mainstream. I liked drag cartoons and Wonder Warthog magazine and things like that. I like things to kind of make me laugh a little bit. I would like Marvel, but I would experiment, pick up a Cracked and say, I'm going to try to make myself like this because Marvel, or Mad was so slick, and they had it all together, and they had all that EC background.
Oh, the good stuff.
So they had it all together. But if you picked up Crack, it was like, yeah, man, this guy doesn't do caricatures as well as Mort Drucker and all these things that Cracked had less of. But you could sit there and try to like it. And also, that's another thing. The guy, has got this illusion that the world is ready to be cracked into. You're not going to crack Mad Magazine. Those guys were as tight a little guild as you could be.
Yeah.
You're not going to crack into anything like that. The only guy cracking into something like that is the guy that comes along with a talent like a Frank Frazetta. Frank Frazetta every now and then had a little thing show up in Mad, but that was just because he was out there, and I guess he may have been semi-connected due to the Al Cap guy. Al Cap. Al Cap. That's what I'm talking about. I was going to say the little Abner guy. Instead, I came up with the right name.
What do you think for Zetta's sequential art?
Oh, the guy he's like Mignola. I don't think he can let it go unless it's just perfectly designed before he goes into it. He's got to look at everything that goes down. He's not one of these guys that's giving you piecework. The whole page has got to look right. And he did so little, even though early on he's done all that stuff that's been reproduced. The White Indian and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That everybody's seen the war stories that he did. But even there, he was always. I think early on he was one of these guys that got to say, I've done enough on this. Here, you do the rest of it. He was always ready to hand it off, and I guess he had good personal relationships with almost everybody. He knew at EC. I think he could always hand off this and that.
Now, Frazetta was a huge Frank Sinatra fan.
Oh,
and I wonder, when you look at his work, from a painting aspect, there's no way I can hear Frank Sinatra when I'm viewing Frazetta image. To me, it has to be something like a little rougher, like I don't know, Iron Maiden or something. What sort of musical image pops in your mind when you see Frazetta? Classical, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. It's something probably more suited for the cinema, I would imagine. More Bernard Herrmann, that sort of thing. Something where someone has composed for Ray Harryhausen or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of everybody else, and of course, back when about the same time I was born, they were using the theremins for the musical soundtrack. So I hear a little bit of theremin when I look at Frazetta, I guess.
That makes sense. So after the video game thing, then you went on to really compile a plethora of different kinds of books. Like art books, short stories.
Well, I've got a bunch of, if you want to follow me, here, I'll write it down so your audience can see it. I'll write it. Because I named my stupid channel after my brother. He was fairly recently passed on. I don't know. And I was in one of those moods where you go, what can I do for my brother? Like my Twitter account is some sort of great commemoration of my brother. But anyway, my Twitter account is this, Russell Goodson 1. At Russell Goodson 1. And there, if you look at my pinned tweet, it says, buy my books. And you can go to my Amazon link and you can find Free Cat and 30 other odd tales. I had done some freelance for a guy, and by doing this freelance, he'd done a story for every day of the month of Halloween, and they were just, about that long, one page of just almost like, what Stan Lee would probably hand off to Jack Kirby or something. And so I did 31 illustrations and 31 little short stories and put that out. And that's one book you can buy. Now this
I've read every story, by the way, in that book.
Yeah, that's right. You always give me and I appreciate that.
And I love
realize how much you're going to appreciate somebody until they review you on Amazon. It's like, hey, look at that.
Ooh, look at that cover. That's a beautiful cover right there.
Instead of avoid, you have something where somebody's. Yeah, I tried to flash back to the old vintage of the old Marvel comics where Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby did these horror tales of that sort of thing. And then on the back of and the other thing I did recently that you bought and I appreciate is my stupid movie script, because that movie script, I allowed that to be quite the time suck. But I tell you what, you've done this before. You've written scripts, and
you've read them.
Yeah, I've read them. It's satisfying in a way that probably other creative activities aren't. You're in your head probably more with a script than just about anything else. Even though comics is so demanding that you gotta be on top of that. But a script is kind of weird because it's going to take. Okay, this is my first iteration. I got to go back into it again, and I got to be objective because it needs work. And then you go back through it a few times, and then by that time it becomes this animal where I've got to call this quits.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't do me any good to just keep rewriting it. I've got to just say, well, this is as good as it gets, and move on from there. But at the same time,
and please kill me.
Yeah.
Because it's torture. It's absolutely torture.
Yeah.
To rewrite something over and over again, even if you did it yourself, it's just like, oh, okay.
Oh, and another big thing is to listen to it out loud and realize, you're no Elmore Leonard when it comes to dialogue or something.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah, when you read it out loud, that is the worst. But I love it. I love the Locust Bride, and there's some review here. I don't understand.
well, somebody gave me a review, and I chuckled
Brutal.
when yeah, really brutal review where it says nonsense or dribble or something like that, which it made me laugh when I read it.
Well, I don't understand how
Well, I mean,
that
yeah,
that
I
could.
can I can understand it. I run into stuff all the time where I think it's something that's nonsense. And, everybody else is going for it in a big way. I heard a kid rapping in the grocery store. He's picking up shopping carts and moving them around while he's rapping. I thought, man, you know, you're not going to break away from the shopping cart job with that rap.
Yeah, but
But
I mean, when
that would have been a brutal critique to give him.
when that guy bought the book, though, he had to have known the genre that he was getting into.
Yeah,
So
it
that's the
would be
weird part.
interesting to know who it was. Find out if it's they're related to me or something.
Do you know who this Farmer Dan guy is? Have you ever
I
figured
know.
out?
No, for a while he was checking in with me on the YouTube, and I don't think I ever did find out who he was.
I think it's Doug.
You think it's Doug,
I
huh?
do, because there's Farmer Jim.
Oh yeah, maybe it might be Doug. It seemed like it was him always just making some sort of passing comment like Doug would do, probably.
So I missed your show yesterday. Every Wednesday you have a show on YouTube.
Hmm. It was a pretty good one. Scott was showing off with Illustrator. If you've ever wondered whether or not Illustrator would be something you'd like to,
Wait,
you
so
know,
Scott was doing digital?
yeah. Oh, Scott was doing digital with Illustrator, doing a logo that's going to show up multiple times in the story, and he was whipping it out. I couldn't get over it. And he got something that he says everybody ask him every time they see something he's done in Illustrator, which is why don't you do your comics that way?
Yeah.
Because you get such a clean result with Illustrator, but like I say, he's got no passion for working in Illustrator for his comics.
Yeah.
So it all comes down to that. It's like, well, I don't like to work that way for my comics, and if you don't have, he would produce something that would look like Richie Rich, or those old Harvey comics, super clean, and it might be a very very popular style,
Yeah.
but it wouldn't be something he enjoys doing.
Now I know you're working on something right now. Is it too early to talk about it, or?
Oh, I'm working on something, but like I say, I've been lately working on. I don't know if you know what I'm working on.
I know the
It's a
story about
comic book.
the robot. Sort
Yeah,
of.
yeah, I'm working on a little bit of DL and Odious, which is a story about a guy that uh, comes upon a robot that knows more about him than he knows about it, and so that's the story. Have you seen Hardcore Henry?
Yes, it's like a first-person shooter movie.
Yeah. It's not like that, but it's what I saw this morning, so I'm thinking of it. Yeah, DL and Odious is something that I. What's funny is I've got all the hard work done. All the panels are kind of laid out, and all the balloons are laid out. So all I have to do is fill in the part I supposedly like to do, which is the art.
Yeah.
And I've got them in a PSD where it's layers, and so they're all just sitting there waiting for me. But I stalled on that while I was doing Inktober, of all things, to let you to get distracted by something that nobody's paying you for, nobody cares about, and for me to treat it like it was like a job or something. So I did that, and so I lost that rhythm. And I've also got going on an outline that's really strengthened up lately. I had my power go off for 8.5 days, and while power was off, of course, the only electronic thing I had that worked still was the iPad, and I could make notes by saying
Sure.
stuff. And I've been thinking about this concept of the mind's eye. And when I think of a mind's eye, I've never really encountered it except in halfway dream-like states. In other words, while you're close to being falling off to sleep, then you get very lucid about what you can visualize. So I've decided, that important to writing for me, in terms of like at least very much on this early stages, is to go take a nap practically,
Yeah.
and then get just ready to jump out of bed, make notes, go back to bed, think about it some more, and that's where you really where you run really into that mind's eye that you need to really get that clear picture. You can go forever and not have a good outline and a good roadmap for something like a script. And I swear, after just a few hours of this electricity being off, me jumping in and out of bed, writing notes, and talking to the iPad, I mapped out a fairly nice script. I had the basic idea, but there's chunks of stuff you don't have
Sure.
when you're starting in on a script where you have an idea. And my idea was this guy was this deaf guy was going to get a tattoo that the guy that was tattooing him, he didn't realize it was a killer, that he had contaminated his tattoo ink with blood. And that tattoo was going to get this deaf guy, because the bigger idea is that I want to make something so low budget, the only special effect is sound.
Wow. That is, woo. Talking about writing yourself into a corner.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the deal. That's the only thing I want this to be a horror story. Where the only thing that scares you is the fact that a deaf guy is able to hear the occasional sound.
Wow, that's such a good idea. It's a good premise.
Like that?
Yeah, I do.
So anyway, all those little pieces all of a sudden started to merge up, and I've got at least an outer limits worth of runtime, I'm pretty sure,
Wow.
of script.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing or reading this. So it's going to be.
It'll take a while. It'll take less time, though. That's the point. Is that this, compared to The Locust Bride came in bits and pieces, and me having to finish, a couple of script books and say, okay, I got something out of that one. And it came when it came, and there was no point in rushing it. Nobody was waiting to make this movie or anything. And so that was my training ground for trying to get better at that. And this one, I think, will, benefit from that. I think it will go much quicker. Hopefully it'll be a better script. Then the other one, I might as well share these ideas. I've got no real idea that these things actually will sell or anything. I'm just going to devote. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
And my other one is called Paper or Plastic, as far as a prototype title. And it's about this guy that's a chemist that's trying to put a little brain into plastic, which is he just wants to be able to get a binary brain into plastic where it's 0 or 1.
Sure.
In terms of like whether it should be going away or sticking around. In other words, decaying. So it give plastic that much of a brain, 0 or 1. But of course, the computer is all just zeros and ones. And so all that trash plastic has got this potential of all of a sudden becoming a hive mind. And so that's a horror story.
Yeah.
And the only reason that one came about, I wanted effects that were no more expensive than reverse film, which is one of my favorite visual effects, is reversing a film, having vines crawl up you and up your nose when they're actually being pulled away from you and out of you.
So every product that would be made would be towards this greater herd of intelligence.
Yeah, well, or this one guy might become a semi-diminished superhero because the plastics wrap around him like in Dune when that Dune the Emperor Dune.
Yeah.
Did you read that when all the worms
Oh yeah.
encase him? And he did it on purpose. He went out. You know, you'd think a guy that would figure that out, somebody else would figure it out too. But just let the worms crawl all over me, and I'll be a superhuman.
Yeah. Well, I know that your the Locust Bride script, you let a bunch of people read it, and I think you were kind of bummed out about sort of the what they said about it. But don't you think
No, not really. Nah,
it doesn't bother you? Criticism or
nah,
anything doesn't
nah,
bother you?
nah.
I'm told
No,
opposite.
and as a matter of fact, I should go for more of that. People should be telling you, I don't get it. I didn't understand any of this. You should know that. That's the biggest flaw in anything. Is like you don't you're not meeting your audience with comprehension or whatever. It's like,
But don't you think, in a way, like maybe you could take Citizen Kane and put it up there, and if no one knew what it was, it would still get negative remarks?
oh yeah, yeah. Well, scripts are hard to read. They're not. You've got to. I think you have to have a filter when you start reading it. You have to have something where you aren't reading everything. You have to just know what you're reading without taking it in. Of course, format will kill something. You have to have a. But when you see Quentin Tarantino, I think he's writing everything longhand, as far as I know, for what he writes, and he no doubt just throws the binder to someone else that I'm sure just types it up for him.
Yeah.
Does that hard formatting stuff. There'd be no reason for him, if he's going to write all that longhand, to be the transcriber of it.
Do you filter yourself? Like, because I don't. Like, I will. I'm so un-PC when it comes to writing that I just kind of let it all just sort of come out. Do you ever think, "Oh, I better not put this part in because of whatever"?
Well, I probably do filter myself. I don't imagine that I've got it like right now. I've got a whole lot of F word stuff I'm doing for this outline, and that's the way I talk too often to myself in terms of
Yeah.
F this, F that. But at the same time, I'll mediate that. I'm sure when I start writing, it's like
But you need it for some of it, don't you?
It involves witches and stuff like that. So being foul, but I'm actually calling this one guy. His placeholder name is Carswell, which from Night of the Demons, right?
Yeah.
The Night of, and of course that's such a classy movie. Nobody's cursing in that. So I if you've got an ambition to do anything that is kind of fun and kind of semi-classy, you aren't going to have a lot of vulgarity in it,
Yeah, but are you going to leave a couple in, or do you usually leave a couple in just to sort of?
Probably a couple. This guy is supposedly, he part of his characters. He's not always been deaf, and what he was before he went deaf was a musician. So he's not a guy that's happy with what life has dished out to him. He's had a drug reaction that's deafened him, and he's got this stupid friend that will come along and say, "Hey, man, you're going to be rich." He doesn't care about that. He'd rather have his hearing back.
And you've worked.
That's the sort of things that are slowly firming up in your head.
Yeah, yeah. I love all your work. Your stories are like a cross between Rod Serling and.
Well, yeah, you're influenced by that kind of stuff, and you just don't.
Well, you're not robbing him. I mean, you know what I mean. You're rubbing shoulders with everybody that you read.
Right.
I guess
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've worked for InWorld for a long time too, and don't you have a book that features all of this great art that you did for this company called InWorld? It's like a role-playing game and stuff.
Yeah, come think of it. Yeah, it's called Sticky Doodle. sticky doodles, yeah. I could probably lay my hands on one of those over there somewhere. Let me go see if I can get one.
Okay.
Oh well, don't want to stay off too long. No, all I found was this thing. The thing
Oh,
we've been
I
talking
love the
about.
cover.
I enjoyed doing that cover. It took a long time to bring all the pieces together. It's so weird when you're trying to get the balance in a composition. It's like, okay, if I make him this important, where's he going to go? All this stuff. I have a harder time with it than I probably should. But then you see somebody else's process, and it's like, yeah. I went to a seminar with talking about Frazetta and others. Frazetta contributed a lot to Little Annie Fanny in Playboy.
Right.
There was a seminar. Oh, I'm going to blank on his name. He was the main guy in charge of Little Annie Fanny. The artist, he was what's his name? He was with Gil Kane, Bern Hogarth, and it was a master's little. They were touring around, and they combined forces, and they had seminars. And of course, seminars is a great way to make some quick cash.
Harvey Kurtzman?
Harvey Kurtzman, yes, the genius guy, Harvey Kurtzman. I couldn't remember his name, but he said, I think at the seminar, I was the, when it's open for questions moment, I asked him, I said, how long does it take to get the look of the art of Little Annie Fanny? And he said he brought it up as a series of almost 16 overlays. In other words, he's the iterations of his artwork and refining Little Annie Fanny was like 16 overlays worth of getting it there slick enough to where it's ready for Playboy,
Yeah. I know a guy who Garfield's produced here where I live, and I know the guy who actually like Jim Davis has not drawn Garfield for years.
Oh, he hasn't. Okay.
And
trying to come up with that name.
Yeah, like for like 25 years he hasn't drawn him. This guy named Gary Barker actually draws and signs his name and everything. And he drew some DC showcases and a bunch of comic books and stuff. And he said the simplicity of Garfield, it looks so easy, but it's 10 times harder than doing something that has a lot of like cross hatching or anything like that. Because it's so simple and it's so out in the open.
Mm-hmm. No. It's got to go down as an exact measurement for what a hand looks like. It's got to be on model. As an animator would be cursed with being on model all the time. Well, I got this one right. Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Now, you were talking about the Locust Bride, and I was reading that the same time I was reading the first draft of Quentin Tarantino's True Romance.
Oh, really? Yeah, True Romance. Isn't that a fun movie?
And well, this version took place in a post-apocalyptic world, so it's kind of a different, And
I'm trying to even visualize how that works.
It was weird. It was weird. I think a lot of it ended up in Natural Born Killers a little bit. Kind of, he always does that. He cannibalizes from other things that he's created. But I enjoyed The Locust Bride way more than I did the True Romance script. So, I mean, I think there's hope for a Locust Bride film eventually.
Well, that's the deal. A guy that is plugging away at writing scripts, go ahead and write 20 of them that nobody's got the least bit of interest in. You write one that's really hot, and everybody says, "Has this kid done anything else?" And
Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, exactly. If you write one thing that gets hot, it's like, what else have you written?
Yeah.
Killing Zoe. There was something he wrote. That's got an interesting structure. Right at the halfway point, those guys are rolling up to the bank. So that much development went on in the characters and all the universe building to that point where they roll up to the bank and just make it hell on earth inside that bank.
Roger Avery, I think, or something Avery was the screenplay author of Killing Zoe.
Oh, it was. I was thinking that was something that Tarantino did. And
oh yeah, they worked on it together. Actually, I think.
Okay.
And I think he gave a big chunk of it to Avery. I think that's his name. I don't know. But what would you rather go down as, a great artist, or would you like your writing to live on? Or do you care?
Well, that's the deal. You do care less and less. I don't know of anybody that gets too as they get older. I think they're pretty. If they've been like me and haven't been ablaze to have make their mark, they realize they've kind of blown it, and you can be depressed about that, or you can be, philosophical about it. It's like it's pretty clear. I've been surrounded by people that. No, I haven't been surrounded by that many. You realize how rarefied it is for people that do catch fire and do make it. You have to get up, stay on it, and be disciplined about it in a way that's was invisible to me. I get it now. If I start over, I could probably do pretty well, because what I get about it, and if anybody gets this and gets any use out of it, well, power to you, is you're one of these guys that invisibly understands my job is working for me. My job is to not ask anybody else for permission to be doing nothing but working what I should be telling myself I am or doing. You're in charge of all that, and you probably got 100 things like that when you're in school. People trying to counsel you things just like that, just that simply.
Yeah.
Telling you, hey, you only go around once in life. I mean, everybody's told you that all your life, and all of a sudden you get to a signpost like mine of very few days left ahead. You realize, oh well, screw it. Who cares? They obviously the relationship building, really big deal. At a certain point in my life, I would have been at the perfect age if someone had counseled me to go to California now, enroll in Cal Arts. I would have been coming up, sitting next to the guy that started Pixar, doing our little student films.
Yeah, but you did better than most. When you say, I mean, in the end, I mean,
and that's important to go ahead and kick out. You have to make yourself a little uncomfortable and do that. You have to say, well, guy probably can't live on $500 and go to California, and you probably can't.
But you did it.
You can give it a shot. Yeah,
you did it and you made it. Yeah. So in the next 20 years, do you think is it too far ahead, or do you think you'll just keep on doing literature type stuff?
Right now, I'm in a situation where things could blow up, and you could have hardships that your finances can't handle, and it would send me down focused on just survival kind of mode. But right now, I have a lot of leisure, and that idea of writing and drawing is what I'm up to, and I'm going to be doing that DL in Odious, but I'm not. Like I say, if I'd be disciplined, if I just do a little chunk a day, it would come along much quicker. But I am kind of tunnel visioned right now. I could be doing the DL in Odious, but right now the scripting is distracting me enough where I've got a little tunnel vision on that, and it's the only thing I'm really making progress on.
Well, hey, progress is progress, right?
Yeah. Well, that's the deal. It all gets done. If you were to look at this Locust Bride thing and say, well, you aren't going to actually take 2.5 years to do that, are you? It's like, well, why not? You know.
Yeah, but you were doing other things at the same time, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Like,
I was doing a little piece of freelance here and there.
I think in the last 4 years you've released 6 books or something like that. So you've been,
No, about well, I guess I have released about 4 books. Yeah, that's
I
sticky
mean, that's
doodle.
wild.
Yeah, you know, you don't realize it, but yeah, that Amazon, and I always have so much aggravation with Amazon getting them to accept what I'm trying to give them. You know, getting a PDF accepted.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of that you've done, but it's like a kind of
Oh, I
annoying.
can't do it. I can't do it. I mean, any of the books that I've done, which I've had them all removed at this point, just
Oh,
because,
really?
yeah, because
They're
just in
they're
case I
coming after
die,
you.
just in case I die, I don't want those out there, and they'll be like, "Oh, he wrote that piece of crap." I'd
Oh,
rather
really?
just be burnt and gone than be recognized for what I have done.
Well,
Um,
that's interesting. Well, that just shows you probably being too mindful of something. Because a guy has got to forgive a lot of that to be a creator. You've got to say you sound like your perfectionism is getting in your way. It's like you got to realize that Scott Sackett is putting out his level of book, and now he's done 3 issues of something that I could go to town on art directing Scott in terms of like what he ought to do to improve as an artist. He is a guy that just said, "We're doing this," and he did it all with his exact level of what he can do,
yeah,
and it was just a ton of work. And the only thing I can tell you is that there's a guy that took the public domain aspect of what's that Richard Matheson story of Last Man on Earth,
oh yeah,
where that the Last Man on Earth is some for some reason, or I Am
yeah,
Legend.
or the Omega Man.
Yeah, the Omega Man and all that. It's been produced a lot, or a couple, 3 times at least,
Yeah,
and I think it's public domain. And these guys, this one guy, put out a version of it where it just takes a long time to put out a graphic novel on the level he did. But I did not like the art at all. But by the time I had read that entire thing, that art had found a home in my acceptance of it. I all of a sudden like this guy draws like some of the worst underground comic book artists I remember when I was into them. I was like,
yeah.
I don't like that guy too much. But what he was doing was he toiled away at it, and by golly, he did it, and it was render heavy too. The guy did a lot of hatching. That's what I all I didn't like about it.
I
But he
think the
had made
difference
a
is with me is that when I'm doing something, I recognize it's subpar. Whereas a
well
lot of
that
people,
yeah, no, yeah, I get you. I know that there's a I look at big chunks of this curious accounts, and all I have to do, I could put out another version of it where I say, okay, I've looked at this too long now. That needs to have a lot more contrast. It needs not to be flat. It needs not to have that. That's the main editing you do. You go,
yeah.
oh man, that could you need to drop that or change this.
But you only
But
see that as the
no.
creator.
I'm sure everybody reacts to some extent. Your sensitivity is there for everybody on some things. Yeah,
Yeah. Now,
appeal. Yeah, that's what you're
yeah,
talking about. It's like appeal is automatically you get the guy that did the Rocketeer. The guy had to put out 3 comic books, and he became like Dave Stevens. He's like this legend talent because everybody said, "Man, this stuff is appealing." And so you get your talent to that level, but he's got that illustrator's knowledge that almost everything you do that it's going to look slick. You're going to photo reference it. You're going to know exactly what is going down on the page, and plus, you know, he knows that he's got these guys that came before him that he's emulating. That who would you say Dave Stevens looks most like? Of course, he looks like himself.
Yeah.
That's who you put in your head. But he's an illustrator that he had people that came before that he's looking at, that he's putting up there when he does that. That's a really nice illustration.
Now,
Betty Page, of course, he had a. I suppose I'd like to have.
oh my God, Betty Page.
I'd like to have old Dave Stevens' old Betty Page morgue. I'm sure he probably had every picture of her.
It's so funny. I think Betty Page is one of the most beautiful women that's ever walked the face of the earth. But her voice always throws me. I just can't accept the voice. It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's always some sort of little part where you're packaged. That's what Scott Adams calls it, is your talent stack.
Yeah, falls apart.
She would have had to work on her talent stack on her voice or something, yeah?
Yeah, me, yeah. But here I am sitting here judging Betty Page, which is kind of ridiculous in itself.
And again, that's a big part of appeal. She had it all, but, maybe she lacked one thing, Well, what comes through on camera, I mean, she was just, the camera loved her. She liked working for the camera,
A lot of your stories are dark and supernatural and things like that. Not all of them, but a lot of them that I've read. Mm-hmm. Do you believe in the supernatural, or is it just something that facilitates your stories?
Yeah. I guess I'm Christian, and that's the basis of almost all supernatural stuff. Everybody, it's almost like they don't realize that it's like you are saying that to say you've got a God, there's nothing more mystical than that.
That's true.
It's like everything else is a lower part of the hierarchy of saying there is a God.
Yeah.
So
that came back to life.
So saying there's angels, and you can make a horror story with angels because it's been done, and all those little iterations of that big thought that there is a God, and of course that's what people and it's almost like everybody realized all at once you have been granted permission to say what's on your mind now. You can say you're an atheist. You used to be stigmatized by it, and you would edit yourself. You talk about editing yourself. You would edit yourself and say you don't believe in God. Like right now, it's like there's a big part of my intellectual thing that says, "Oh, come on, you don't believe in God," because obviously, I read a lot of stuff. I'm just reading just recently about how the guy that wrote Call the Wild, Jack London.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a big socialist, total atheist. He says your life goes on no farther than that mosquito you slapped. The moment you end as definitely as that mosquito you slapped. And that's I don't think I have a great need to feel like I go on in terms of like why I believe, because I really don't. I think that to end like a slapped mosquito is no big deal. I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Obviously, the receptors for caring are gone.
Now, does that affect your opinion of him when you realize things?
You can't help but help a little bit. But I was reading his dog stories, so it doesn't affect it much. He's got some sort of public domain thing I've got on the desktop right now called The Iron Heel. I didn't know he'd written science fiction. It's called, apparently it's an influential on 1984.
Really?
About modern dystopian society, The Iron Heel. And so since he's the socialist, I'm curious to read it, because okay, now who are the bad guys in this? If you're the socialist, who's repressing everything? And that's the other thing when you realize, Orwell, he was a big big liberal. He, but he recognized in what he was seeing in the, you know, the Russians and all that, that you know, these repressive, you know, that boot on a face forever image is probably the scariest thing in my mind. Because as Americans, we want to think we can change things. We want to think we can improve from having a boot on our face forever.
We can't.
But yeah, we might not be able to. It might come along in such a package that it just it's time to get used to the ruling class.
Yeah, it doesn't affect me. Like I can watch a
No, it doesn't affect
like a
much.
Roman Polanski movie and not even sort of have his past come into play too much. You know what I mean? I love Fearless
no.
Vampire Slayer and
No, I'm the same way you are about that. I get people like Doug and other friends that are a little more religious, a little more judgmental about things like the idea that Polanski's enough of a horn dog that he went after a very young woman, and I think I contrast that with my thinking about coming from Arkansas and knowing that all those hillbillies were having sex just as quickly as they could when they could have sex.
Yeah.
And that they make fun of it, of course, in the Beverly Hillbillies. That what's her name? The attractive girl in it.
I can think of everybody but her.
Yeah. Great Granny's always on to her saying, "Jed, she's 16 years old. She's an old maid."
Yeah.
That sort of thing. That's what I'm talking about. And that reflects an actual bit of thinking. You got married really young, not that long ago in our culture.
Yeah. Look at Jerry Lee Lewis.
You got married because you were going to be getting pregnant.
Yeah.
Pretty quick, like you were having sex.
Like Jerry Lee Lewis. I mean, he married his cousin and with their consent, with the parents' consent.
He didn't think anything about that. Jerry Lee comes out of the sort of people I'm talking about. I'd be very, I'm sure I'd feel right at home at one of Jerry Lee Lewis's Thanksgiving.
But it's a very rebellish type thing to do, though. Especially Jerry Lee Lewis. Some people can get away with it, and then Groucho Marx, you're like, ugh.
Well, these guys that are horn dogs that are going after young stuff in Hollywood. There's power layers and stuff like that make that it makes it more evil than I probably am caring to admit, but it doesn't affect my perception of how much I enjoy a good Polanski movie.
Yeah.
I can't help not loving Chinatown and a stupid movie I could watch any day is that stupid Johnny Depp movie, Gate.
Oh my God, I love that movie, The Ninth Gate.
The Ninth Gate. It's a great movie.
It's so
it's
good.
It's just weirdly intriguing because it's just all character. This guy's just going to go on a journey. We go on with him, and it's such a cool little journey.
It's almost like Polanski got obsessed with the devil and darkness because maybe what happened to his wife. It was pretty vicious what happened, and he seems like, I know Rosemary's Baby came out before that, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I did, and that was him being given his big Hollywood chance. Yeah, and it was funny because that's one of the best adaptations of a book ever, and it was him just being meticulous, saying, "Oh, this is the big chance. I got to get this right." So he just he didn't let himself play with anything. He just put it all in there. Yeah. But it's got his he's so good. It's got his touches, like to read about those little things where the whole audience he's affecting them because he's placed a doorway to where action is going in and out of it beyond this barrier of doorway. And supposedly in test audiences, the audience was going like this, leaning, trying to look around this barrier he'd put in the way. And he did that, it's just an artistic kind of notion he did that was, just really cool.
Yeah.
I think, you got to keep your eye on those witches,
Yeah.
see what they're up to, even if they've gone into another room.
I thought you might have believed in ghosts because you have 2 YouTube channels. One's Plaspastics, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one?
Plastic. And the other one's just my name, all one word, Ellis Goodson. Ellis Goodson.
And
that one's got exactly 10 times less subscribers than Plaspastics. But Plaspastics, I've put a whole bunch of stuff that I always get flagged for. They don't do anything about it. They flag me. But at the same time, it can't be monetized. I've got just too much stuff that has been flagged,
But yeah,
my most recent effort is to cut everything out of Joan Jett's video of "Do You Want to Touch?"
Yeah.
In her bikini, and it's just all of her, every shot of her in the bikini, and then take the soundtrack, put it untouched. And then just let it play over and over.
I want to see that.
Yeah, it's on my Plaspastics.
Oh, it's up? It's up now?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll have to check it out.
And that's, it's just, I like Joan Jett at that particular period with that amount of body fat. It's like liking Linnea Quigley. She had a nice look at one time,
Yeah, she told me the saddest thing that ever happened to her was when, this was like 2 years ago, when she went on set and she realized that no one wanted her to take off her clothes, that they would prefer her to keep her clothes on. And she said that was kind of soul breaking to her, because that's how she made her living for so long.
Well, that is interesting. And, I think people know this, that have really good bodies. If it's somebody that knows they look good without their clothes on, man, they're ready to shuck them. They know that they've got nothing to hide because of that. Says, hey, I just look better the more clothes that come off.
Well, on your other channel, on your Ellis Goodson channel, last thing I caught was, I think it was the orb video, where you have like a cam and you're walking through the house and there's like an orb. A giant orb that flies through.
I was just getting into stuff where, when I learned how to do something with, iMovie. It's like, it's so easy. You just add a layer on top of what you've got going and tell it to try to green screen something, and it goes to work on it. It's fun. I used to think that was a job I might like to do, which is, it's like, well, that'd be a high-class job to be the guy that does the supers on stuff. You see letters come in and out on a screen. It's like, somebody's got to do that job. I could probably do that.
Well,
and so that appeal of anytime you composite anything, it's just the appeal of why you like Photoshop or anything else. Even though it's like it might be a mystery to somebody that comes across the content as a casual observer, say, why did you do that? I don't get it. I did it because I thought it was cool, and sharing it is the big, I think, the big mystery. Why did you share it?
Have you and Scott filmed the latest installment of your coin op thing? I heard you guys are going to do a new little video short or something.
We were going to do one. It just shows you that with me and Scott, it's like there's nothing that makes this clearer than me and Scott on this supposed video project we were going to do. Communication is the only thing that's tough on anything. I told Scott, I gave him a little concept, and it just surprised me how what he heard when I gave it to him as a little micro script. It's like, wow, that's okay. I didn't have any of that in mind, but yeah, go ahead and do it.
It has an intermission now.
it was going to be a space. It was going to be called Space Poison. I was going to do parts where my part was going to be the weirdo that's cooking something up in the lab that is extraterrestrial, and it's going to like fade out on my end of the shot, and then on Scott's end of the shot it'll materialize, and it's just no more story than that. That he'll take it in and he'll be poisoned by it, and so that turns into a short. You know?
Yeah.
And it's like it's nothing more than like, yeah, you give me your footage, Scott. But Scott had turned it into, needing props and everything on his end, and it's like, no, it could be really simple.
Yeah.
We could get it done real quick.
Yeah, he'll have like an assistant.
But we haven't done it. We haven't pursued it.
Assistant director, and then somebody, a gaffer.
Yeah.
Before it's over with.
And knowing that keeps me from really getting too ambitious about getting a whole bunch of people together and doing a film, because when you realize that you're going to have that happen, when I hear about the guys that are real leaders on a set, directors that everybody admires, it's like everybody feels like they're being led and comfortable with what he's up to, and they're just totally confident. I would not inspire that. There would be questioning of me every step of the way. And when you realize that, it's like, you cancel yourself before you start.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
I had a bad experience. Yeah.
You've had a bad experience with it. It's like, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. I'm sure on some of that stuff.
Always. And then actors drop out, and then you try to find a replacement, and then you get corrupted files, and it's so exhausting that I never even want to think about doing anything like that ever again, actually.
And Doug on his Mothman movie.
Yeah, boy, that I love.
You would think that after he had that experience and saw he could do something like, and other people have had this experience where people thought they wanted to be the director, but you realize what it entails. Doug's showrunner stuff. I'm vicarious. I bring up. I say Doug's name all the time because he is that rare guy I know that went on and did a whole lot of stuff. And as a showrunner, that's a big job and a lot of stress. And I don't think he ever wants to do that again.
Yeah.
He's doing what he wants to do right now. And,
well, it's working for him.
Yeah, nobody's working for him. He's doing it all. He's laying out the freelance that has to be done to get it done, So,
Ellis, my friend, this has been a privilege. Well, thank you so much.
You bet.
A legend like yourself. Earthworm Jim. Ow! Right? Yeah, the sound effect is actually you. Not actually you, but
I'm the inspiration.
You're the inspiration. So, yeah.
Supposedly. I've been told that, yeah.
But,
But it came about when we were, have you ever gone for a war with air rifles?
Oh, yeah. Paintball hurts so bad. Paintball. And you were saying
that?
You were saying that you were out, right?
Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah, but he thought you were saying, ow.
Yeah, and it is funnier that way to think I'm sharing with everybody my extreme pain at being shot.
Yeah, and he finds it hilarious. So.
Yeah. Shooting people in paintball is pretty fun.
It is, because...
The best place to get shot in paintball is right in the eye.
Oh, my God.
You don't feel it.
Because of the goggles. Yeah.
Yeah, the goggles. It's like, it's the only point that doesn't have a nerve ending.
Yeah.
Go ahead, shoot me in the eye.
I got shot in the throat.
Yeah, that'll bruise you there.
I was talking about being out. I was done for the season.
Hit the ground and writhe a little bit, yeah.
But in the description below, I'll leave all your links and stuff so everybody can check out all your stuff. And I greatly appreciate this. A true legend and a great online friend. Check out Ellis Goodson stuff on Amazon. And buy his books. Buy his books. Thank you, sir.
Find somebody in Abu Dhabi to buy my books.
Oh, yeah, and thank you for figuring out the stream, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Because this would not have happened if it hadn't been for you.
Yeah, I should have hit record. I would have had my own copy. Okay, well, okay, you ready to go?
Yeah.
We'll see you, James.
Yep.
Take it easy.
Thank you, sir.